Hi, Ellen.
Hi, Andy. How are you?
Good, thank you. Good. It's nice to speak to you again. And you were just such an obvious person to speak to as part of this little series we're putting together for Pet Remedy, especially because of the conversation we had before. So, if anybody doesn't know, Ellen, you're the founder of Agility Net.
Yes, I started in 1998. Well, we were lucky if we had 10 people come to the site. I go, hooray, 10 people. And then we get 2,500 people coming to the site every month. And that's quite a
Wow.
lot, when you
It's
think the
amazing.
community isn't that big.
And isn't it funny how our expectations change over time? Because, like you say, it's like 10 people came today. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
And just tell us a little idea of the scale of Agility Net now, because you've got lots of clubs that come into Agility Net, don't you? And a lot of individuals.
It's meant to be a central resource which sends people out to other places. So we give people tasters, we give them links. So there's a list of about 800 clubs and training groups. Right now, I have about 450 agility and hoopers shows on the diary. We have a list of about 500 agility judges, which these are things that aren't done any other place. The Kennel Club doesn't have the resources, and their main idea is obedience and not obedience, breed. And so they don't do these lists and they only do it for themselves. So ours cover Kennel Club, independent, all the
Great.
flavors of agility.
And it's interesting, isn't it, when you think about dog sports more generally, agility is the one that people might think about. We've spoken before that you get that kind of small percentage who are really focused in on it, and it's almost yeah, that's their primary focus. It's almost their kind of reason for living almost. But the vast majority of people, they're people who do it as a hobby almost. They love the sense of community. They love the work, the kind of partnerships they build up with their dogs, and it's a bit of fun.
Yeah,
Serious fun, but it's fun.
serious. Yes, I mean, once you get it, you become addicted. I mean, that's one of the things once it bites. But not everybody is a top one. People just go and they enjoy training. They go to see their friends at shows to measure what their dogs have learned and how they're doing. You're in the ring for a total of maybe 3, 4 minutes, and you spend the whole day and you're exhausted by the end of it. But if it goes well, it's just this wonderful adrenaline that goes through you, a sense of accomplishment.
And there's a lot of benefits, isn't there? I think to building up a connected relationship with your dog by doing these kind of activities, and especially if you're tutored well and you're part of a supportive group and a supportive club, all these extra things can be hugely beneficial. I know as a certified behaviorist working with clients who I've introduced them to activities, and actually it's been a big part of the process that we've helped with that dog to build their confidence and to be able to process things in a different way, in a beneficial way for them. And this is why we're excited at kind of Pet Remedy to start thinking about how we connect in and offer more resources to those people who have dogs that they do activities with. So there's all sorts of different activities, and I know it's an area that you're very passionate about yourself, thinking about the whole dog, the whole experience. And there has been a move, hasn't there, in the last kind of 5 years plus, I suppose, towards really focusing in on the physicality of the dog. And there's a lot more people now who know how to look at their dog and make sure that they're okay, and making sure that they're doing the right kind of exercises so that they physically can cope. But we're understanding more and more now, aren't we, about the emotional side of things, both for the dog and the handler, actually.
Right. Well, I believe that it's a partnership. I tell people it's like the dog is the engine and you're steering. You can't do one without the other. And if the dog isn't happy, it's not going to do it. You'll try and try and try, and the dog will be disinterested. You'll see them with their body language, licking their lips, turning their heads, sitting when they're not supposed to be sitting, walking away. And it's no good yelling at them because they are nervous. They're saying, I'm not confident right now. So part of your job as the handler is to be confident and make them confident in what they're doing, not push them so much. It honestly doesn't matter how long it takes. A lot of people are starting their dogs out very young now. So even at 9, 10 months, which they probably shouldn't be doing, they're doing wraparounds on wings and things like that. And these are puppies. So, a lot of play. Um, dogs need holidays, they need breaks. They can't just, a training isn't enough. I mean, some of that is not, what would I to call it? It's not exercise for them. They're working. They need to be paid for their work, and it's got to be important to them. And dogs get different pay. So every time they do something, some dogs will take a treat. Some dogs just, will do the equipment. I had a dog that did it by herself, but she got the pay of doing it by herself and meeting you at the end, basically. So they need that. And a lot of people think, oh, just train harder. And that's not necessary. They need to be able to be dogs, to be able to sniff around, to see, friends and things like that. And people have to believe that all dogs aren't agility dogs or any sport that you're doing. Some aren't built for it. Some don't have the instincts. In agility, the ones that are doing best right now are the herding dogs for the most part, and the spaniels, because they want their attention, their owner's attention, and that's part of it. Does that make sense?
It does, and I think it can be easy, I think, no matter what you're doing, especially with any form of training, really, to get very stuck into the notion of the task that you're doing, which is right. Why won't Rover do this right now? And like you say, the answer we can easily fall into thinking, I need to train more, But if we just stop and pause and step back, there could be 101 reasons why Rover might not be able to manage that right now. And we all need a break, right, Ellen? Even people who enjoy agility, there must be when the kind of season changes or when they have a bit of a break, it's probably a bit of a relief, isn't it?
Where you meet the family you haven't seen for 6 months. And now the agility season goes all year. At one point it stopped in September, end of September, and didn't start up to March. So people had enforced breaks. You don't have that now. You've got indoor clubs, you've got smaller shows, which are in menages and places like that, so they can go through the winter months.
So this is important, isn't it? And I think even those who are really into thinking about performance and times and that side of things, we understand a lot more now about how important it is for the dog to not just to know what they do, because obviously you do a lot of the training, the dog knows stuff, but also to make sure that they're physically okay, because obviously we can all have aches and pains and strains, but also emotionally that they are motivated enough that they're able to kind of do what they need to do, but they're not too over elevated, because that can be a problem, of course. And you end up with what one of my colleagues calls a very fizzy dog who struggles then to kind of see what they need to do. So getting that kind of emotional side of things is really important, isn't it? And also for us as a human, I think if you're the person who's teaching others, we need to try and stay as calm as we can and not get too frustrated and just think, okay, I just need to perhaps go over that again. But also as the handler, just allowing yourself to be in that lovely zone.
Right. Well, if the dog goes wrong, 98% of the time it's the handler. The handler, for one reason or other, has told the dog the wrong thing, because the dog doesn't know whether it should be going over a jump or through a tunnel. It's counting on you to tell them. And yet people are going, no, no. And every time they say no, the dog goes, oh my God, what have I done? When basically your hand flicked out like that, or you just looked up. I mean, once when I was running my dog, we were almost clear. She went over a jump and I said, good girl. She looked at me, dropped her leg, dropped the pole. And it was my fault. I needed to not say anything because she was so focused on, where do we go now? And then, no, keep going. So it's that kind of thing. The handler has to be confident. And I measure when people are starting to get into agility, when they suddenly realize that they're more of the problem sometimes than the dog is. If they're not confident, if they're not giving clear indications to the dog what to do, it's not the dog's fault. Dog basically wants to do what you want to do. And if it doesn't, then you have a problem with your relationship with your dog.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point. And I think, in my opinion, it can never be the dog, because they only know what we teach them, and then also the environmental factors for that dog, whether they can actually engage with what it is we want to do. Because even for us humans, we can be trained really well in whatever our job is or whatever it is we do, but that can fail at times if we're not in a well-regulated state. I was talking to a friend recently who had been doing agility just for fun locally. Their dog was really good at it, so they got offered the chance to go to a show up country, and the dog really struggled. And I think it's, when you think about it, that dog had only ever performed in that one area, and then the traveling and going somewhere new and a lot of more people there and all these things, it can have an impact, I think, sometimes, and until the dog gets used to it. And this is why it's important to do anything we can to try and support that nervous system, but also for us. And I think a lot of the things that we do that are a little bit superstitious is actually about us trying to calm our own nervous system. You know, if I wear these socks today, if I wear these boots today, if I do this, if I drink my coffee out of my left hand instead of my right hand, I'll be all right. Anything we need to do really is just to try and calm those nerves, isn't it?
We normally have to say to people when they're just starting out, remember when you get to the start line, breathe.
Breathe.
Because the dog's like, oh my God, what's going to happen now? And you're going, like that. But, it's one of the things that agility is nice about. It's not so high profile. You don't have to be a terrific athlete for the most part to be able to do it. I mean, I knew an 82-year-old woman who inherited her ex-husband's dog, and she started agility. So if you could do it, there, and people would stop and watch her. Now, obviously, she was not running around. She used to get applause because the dog would, was slower, but she got so much pleasure out of that for that particular period of time. So it's nice because it's a sport for all ages, and I just love it. I mean, I think that you can get something out of it without having to win all the time. Where lots of places you have to win and you have to keep going. You can just stay and go see your friends, camp a little bit. I think you're right about the traveling and things. And I think that, occasionally a helicopter or a hot air balloon that, comes over the show and a lot of the dogs are going, oh my God, what is that coming to get me? And our dog has been known to run away. But, maybe do you have pet remedy for humans?
Well, it works on all mammals. So if you're spraying it in the back of your van, you're going to take in some of it yourself. So why not?
Okay.
And I think this is the thing. I think it's all about stacking the cards in our favor a little bit. And I think the people, my colleagues who do dog sports, either as teachers, as educators, or as the participants, or both, of course, the ones who really get the most out of it are the ones who celebrate everything about it. They celebrate the connection. They celebrate being there. Their dog can come, not get placed, but they'll celebrate the fact that they've had a great experience and that they've spent time with their dog. And I think this is the way to be. I think is to stay humble and to give ourselves grace around these things. And I think the big message from today, from what you've said, is it's about partnership. It's about a relationship. It's an activity that's based around that, not the other way around.
Well, if you ever see the competitors at Crufts or Olympia or something like that, every one of those dogs gets a big hug and a cuddle at the very end, regardless of how they performed. And the handler knows that that's really, really important. And there might be a toy there might be the odd treat. Or look at Mary Ray or somebody who they do a 5-minute, show of heel work and music, and they give the dog a tiny, tiny little treat. The dog is happy because it's had that relationship and it's had its reward. We wouldn't work if we didn't get paid.
No, absolutely.
I mean, there's no union to protect dogs. It's up to us to do that.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Well, thank you so much, Helen, for having a chat with us today.
Thank you. It's been fun. Thank you again.
Bye.
And now the dog is quiet.
Yes.